Trudeau has used every single tool in the government toolbox. He was trying to convince us a couple of weeks ago, well, you know, three very neutral, totally independent, highly respected people looked at this and they found nothing. All three of them happen to be senior civil servants. In other words, they work for Mr. Trudeau. Nobody's taking anything away from their competence, but it's not independent. And then he said, well, I asked somebody really, really independent to look at their work to make sure it was okay. And that person, also somebody very capable, named Morris Rosenberg, well, he happened to be for several years the president and CEO of the Trudeau Foundation, named for Justin Trudeau's father. So it didn't wash with the Canadian public. So when the pressure started to build, he came up with the idea you just mentioned. Oh, I'm going to name a special rapporteur. So I mean, most people didn't even know what that was supposed to refer to. It's something out of the world of diplomacy, has nothing whatsoever to do with this. And to top it off, Mr. Trudeau is the only person in Canada who gets to call an inquiry. So he can't have an inquiry as to whether or not he should have an inquiry. He can't subdelegate to somebody else, anybody else, powers that are strictly his. He is the prime minister, the first minister. He is the person responsible for overseeing the government. And at the cabinet table, he'd be the one to make that decision. But again, he's always trying to back away from that. The average Canadian, 70%, according to the polls, is just saying something doesn't wash in this whole story. We want a full rendering of account. We want a full, complete, total public commission of inquiry. There's stuff in there that is very harmful to the Liberals generally and to him personally. If you look at the documents that are already public, we know that Trudeau and the people closest to him were told that this interference by the Chinese government was taking place. But heavens, in November, Trudeau made a point with his team of boasting that he had upbraided President Xi of China at the G20 summit in Bali, Indonesia. We all recall that picture of Trudeau with President Xi. They said it's because they were interfering in our elections. When he got back to Parliament, they tried to ask him questions about it in question period. He pretended that, well, I have no idea what you're talking about. So it's always one thing and its opposite. And you know what? You can't say one thing and its opposite and both be true. And if there was indeed, and every indication is that if there was indeed interference by the Chinese government in Canadian elections, that's the bedrock of our democracy. It is what we base ourselves on to have a free society, and we can't fool around with it. And we have to make sure we get to the bottom of it. It's in the national interest. Trudeau knows that, but he's still stalling, and it doesn't look good on him.